Warner Bros. Studio, Burbank, California. September 14, 1936. 10:47 a.m. James Cagney walks through the executive building corridor carrying nothing. No briefcase, no script, no agent, just his hands in the pockets of a gray suit that cost less than the ashtrays in Jack Warner's office. The hallway smells like fresh paint and old cigars. His footsteps echo on marble floors polished so smooth they reflect the ceiling lights. Secretaries glance up from typewriters, then quickly look away. They know why he's here. Everyone knows. What happens in the next 12 minutes doesn't just end a contract negotiation. It ends an era. The door at the end of the hall stands open. Not welcoming, waiting, like a mouth. Cagney doesn't slow down, doesn't hesitate, doesn't knock. He walks through. Inside, 3 men sit behind a mahogany desk the size of a pool table. Jack Warner in the center, flanked by Hal Wallace on the left, production chief. Roy Obringer on the right, head of legal. All 3 in suits that cost more than most Americans make in a year. 1936. Depression still grinding the country. Unemployment at 20%. Breadlines stretching blocks. But inside this room, the air conditioning keeps everything at 68 degrees. Warner doesn't stand, doesn't extend a hand, just looks at Cagney and says, "Sit." Cagney remains standing. 3 seconds of silence. Warner's jaw tightens. Just slightly. Just enough. The power dynamic is already shifting. In Hollywood, in 1936, under the studio system that controls every actor, director, writer, and camera operator like pieces on a chessboard, standing when a studio head tells you to sit is an act of rebellion. Small, quiet, unmistakable. Warner tries again. "Jimmy, sit down. Let's talk business." Cagney says nothing. His eyes don't leave Warner's face. Not challenging, not aggressive, just present, waiting, breathing normally, hands still in his pockets. He learned this stance in the streets of New York's Lower East Side. Where looking away first means you lose. Where silence is currency. Where the one who talks first is the one who needs something. Warner needs him. That's why they're here. Let's rewind 6 months. Understand what brought him to this moment. James Cagney signed his first contract with Warner Bros. In 1930. 7 years. Standard deal. The studio system operates on one principle: ownership. When you sign a 7-year contract, the studio owns you. Owns your face, owns your body, owns your name, owns every second you stand in front of a camera. You don't choose your roles. They do. You don't choose your co-stars. They do. You don't negotiate your salary. They tell you what you're worth. And if you refuse, if you walk away, they bury you, blacklist you across every studio in Hollywood. Make sure you never work again. Make sure the press destroys your reputation. Make sure America forgets you existed. The studio system in 1936 is not a business arrangement. It's indentured servitude, legal, documented, enforced by the most powerful lawyers in California. Actors are not artists. They are assets, inventory, property that generates profit. And when the 7 years end, the studio offers a new contract. Better money, sure, but the same terms, same control, same ownership. Sign or disappear. Cagney's 7 years ended in August 1936. Warner Bros. Wants him back. Needs him back. Because in those 7 years, James Cagney became something Warner didn't expect: the studio's biggest earner. Not the biggest star, that's Bette Davis. Not the most respected, that's Paul Mooney. But the most profitable. His films make money. Consistent, reliable, massive. Public Enemy, 1931. Taxi, 1932. Footlight Parade, 1933. G-Men, 1935. Each one a box office phenomenon. Each one raking in millions while production costs stay low because Cagney doesn't demand sets or spectacle. Just story, character, energy. He explodes on screen. 5'8", 150 pounds. Compact, wired, a lit fuse in every frame. The gangster, that's what Warner Bros. Built him into. The sneering, violent, irredeemable gangster. Tom Powers blowing smoke in Mae Clarke's face. Shoving a grapefruit into her face. Cold, brutal, iconic. Warner Bros. Didn't invent the gangster film, but they perfected it. And Cagney became its face. America loved him, feared him, paid to watch him. Depression-era audiences saw something in Cagney's gangsters. Someone who refused to bow, refused to starve quietly, took what the world wouldn't give, died defiant. But Cagney hated it. Hated the typecasting, hated the violence, hated being locked into one identity. He came from vaudeville, started as a dancer, song and dance man, comedy, timing, physicality beyond punching. He could move like water. But Warner Bros. Didn't care about what he wanted. They cared about profit. And gangster films with James Cagney made profit. So they kept casting him, kept forcing him into the same mold. Film after film, year after year, until the 7 years ended. Now they want 7 more. Warner slides a document across the desk. 23 pages. Standard Warner Bros. 7-year extension. Salary increase, $4,000 per film. Up from $1,500. Sounds generous, until you understand the math. Each Cagney film grosses between $1 and $3 million. Warner Bros. Keeps 98%. Cagney gets a fraction. No profit participation, no creative control, no script approval. Just show up, say the lines, play the gangster, collect the check, repeat for 7 years. Warner says, it's a good deal, Jimmy. Best we've offered anyone your size. Your size, not your talent, not your draw, your size. Meaning, you're short, you're not leading man handsome, you're ethnic, you're expendable. We made you. Without us, you're back on the vaudeville circuit playing to empty theaters in Poughkeepsie. This contract is generosity. Take it, sign it, be grateful. Cagney picks up the contract. Doesn't read it, just weighs it in his hand. 23 pages. 7 years of his life reduced to contract language and studio letterhead. He sets it back down. Says one word, no. The room changes temperature. Warner leans forward. No, no, you understand what you're saying no to. I understand what I'm saying no to. Wallace jumps in, smooth, diplomatic. Jimmy, we know you've had frustrations. Creative differences. We hear you. This new contract gives us room to explore other roles. Maybe a musical, maybe something lighter. We're not locking you into gangster films. Cagney looks at him. Where's that in writing? Silence. Where in those 23 pages does it say I get script approval? Role selection. Any say in what films I make? More silence. It doesn't, because this contract is the same as the last one. More money. Same chains. Warner's voice goes cold. Chains. You think $4,000 a picture is chains? You think being the highest paid actor at this studio is chains? I think not owning my own career is chains. You don't own your career. We do. We built it. We made you. Now it's Cagney who leans forward. Just slightly. Just enough. His voice doesn't rise. Doesn't need to. You made me. I made you $30 million in 6 years. You made me into something I'm not. There's a difference. The room holds its breath. This is the line. The one no actor crosses in 1936. You don't tell a studio head that you made them. You don't challenge the mythology that studios create stars. You don't claim ownership of your own success. Because the moment you do, you become a threat. Not an asset. A problem. And problems get solved. Warner stands, walks to the window, looks out at the lot. Sound stages stretching across 40 acres. Sets, crews, cameras, the machinery of Hollywood. He speaks without turning around. You walk out of this office without signing, you'll never work in this town again. Not for Warner, not for MGM, not for Paramount, not for anyone. I'll make sure of it. Cagney doesn't respond. Warner turns. You think you're special. You think you're irreplaceable. I got 50 actors under contract who can play tough guys. Maybe not as good as you, but good enough. Audiences won't remember your name in 6 months, but they'll keep coming to Warner Bros. Pictures. Because we make the pictures. Not you. We make the stars. Not the other way around. Then you don't need me to sign. Warner's face flushes. You're throwing away your career. I'm buying it back. Obringer, the lawyer, finally speaks. Calm, clinical. Mr. Cagney, let me be clear about the legal realities. If you refuse to sign and attempt to work for another studio, we will pursue breach of contract litigation. We will pursue tortious interference. We will pursue every legal remedy available. You will spend the next 5 years in courtrooms instead of on film sets. And you will lose. Cagney looks at him. Maybe, not maybe, certainly. No actor has ever won against a studio in contract litigation. The legal system supports us. The courts understand that studios invest in actors. Train them, promote them, build them. That investment is protected. You cannot simply walk away. I'm not walking away. I'm standing here, telling you I won't sign. That's not breach. That's refusal. Semantics. Law. The room goes silent again. This is the moment. The fulcrum. Everything balances here. Cagney knows what refusal costs. Knows Warner's threats are real. Knows the blacklist is real. Knows that every major studio in Hollywood operates under the same system. Walk away from one, you walk away from all. There is no independent film industry in 1936. No streaming platforms. No alternate distribution. Just the studios. 5 major, 3 minor. All controlled by men like Jack Warner. Men who have lunch together. Play golf together. Agree on which actors are problems. But Cagney also knows something they don't. He knows that the system only works if actors believe they have no choice. He knows that the contracts only hold power if everyone signs them. He knows that the blacklist only functions if actors fear it more than they value themselves. And James Cagney learned something in the Lower East Side tenements where he grew up. Learned it from a father who worked himself to death for pennies. Learned it from a mother who scrubbed floors to keep 5 children fed. Learned it from streets where survival meant knowing when to fight and when to walk. He learned that there are things you don't compromise. Lines you don't cross, prices you don't pay, no matter the cost. Warner walks back to the desk, sits, picks up a pen, taps it against the contract. The sound echoes. Tap, 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 like a countdown. Last chance, Jimmy. Sign the contract. Keep your career, keep your life, or walk out and lose everything. Cagney looks at the contract, at the pen, at Warner's hand holding it. Then he looks at Warner, says 3 words, "I'm walking out." Turns, walks to the door. Behind him, Warner's voice rises. Not calm anymore, not controlled. "You're finished, Cagney. Finished. You'll be serving tables in 6 months. Begging to come back. And when you do, the offer won't be 4,000. It'll be scale. You hear me? Scale." Cagney reaches the door, doesn't turn around, doesn't respond, just keeps walking, down the corridor, past the secretaries who stop typing, past the assistants who press against the walls, past the framed posters of Warner Bros. Films with his face on them, through the lobby, out the front entrance, into the parking lot where the California sun hits him like a wall. He walks to his car. A Ford, not a Cadillac, not a Rolls. A Ford, the same car he drove before the contracts, before the fame, before Warner Bros. Decided he was worth something. He gets in, sits, puts his hands on the steering wheel, doesn't start the engine, just sits there, breathing, feeling his heartbeat slow, feeling the reality settle. He just walked away from $4,000 per picture. He just walked away from guaranteed work. He just walked away from the most powerful studio in Hollywood. And he did it without raising his voice, without threatening, without negotiating. He just said no. That night, the phone rings at Cagney's house in Beverly Hills. His wife Frances answers. It's Warner's assistant. Warner wants to talk, wants Cagney to reconsider. Frances listens, thanks the assistant, hangs up, tells Cagney. He shakes his head. The phone rings again an hour later. Hal Wallace this time, offering a meeting, just to talk, no pressure. Cagney doesn't take the call. The phone rings 4 more times before midnight. Cagney unplugs it. The next morning, Variety runs a headline, Cagney walks from Warner's. The article is short, speculative, no quotes from Cagney, no quotes from Warner, just the fact. Contract expired, no renewal signed, actor departed. The Hollywood trades watch carefully. This doesn't happen. Actors don't walk away from major studios, don't refuse contracts, don't challenge the system. If Cagney gets away with it, if he works again, if he survives this, it changes everything. But Warner Bros. Moves quickly. Within 48 hours, every major studio in Hollywood receives the same message: James Cagney is blacklisted. Do not hire, do not meet with, do not consider for any project. Any studio that violates this agreement will face coordinated retaliation. Shared talent withheld, distribution deals cancelled, theater partnerships dissolved. The studios function as a cartel. They compete for audiences, but they cooperate to control talent. An attack on one studio's authority is an attack on all. Cagney must be made an example. The press turns. Columnists who praised Cagney's performances now question his judgment. Luella Parsons writes, James Cagney may have talent, but he lacks gratitude. Hedda Hopper suggests, some actors forget who made them stars. The narrative builds. Cagney is difficult, ungrateful, arrogant, thinks he's bigger than the studio that built him. The public reads these columns over morning coffee. Starts to wonder, maybe Cagney isn't the tough guy hero. Maybe he's just difficult. Maybe Warner Bros. Was right to let him go. But Cagney doesn't respond, doesn't give interviews, doesn't defend himself, doesn't issue statements, just stays home, reads, spends time with Frances, tends his garden, waits. 3 weeks pass, then a letter arrives, from Grand National Pictures, an independent studio, small, no major distribution, no powerful backing, but independent, outside the cartel. They want to meet with Cagney, want to offer him a deal, not a 7-year contract. A 2-picture deal, script approval, creative control, profit participation, everything Warner Bros. Refused to give him. The money is less, $1,500 per picture, same as his original Warner contract. But the terms are different. He owns his work, he chooses his projects, he controls his career. Cagney reads the offer, reads it again, thinks about what it means. Grand National can't protect him from the blacklist, can't give him access to major theaters, can't guarantee wide release. These films might not reach audiences, might not make money, might end his career anyway, but they'll be his films. He signs. The Hollywood trades explode. Cagney signs with Grand National. Major star defects to independent. Studio system fractured. Warner Bros. Responds immediately. Issues a statement. Legal action forthcoming. Breach of implied contract. Tortious interference. They will sue Grand National. They will sue Cagney. They will tie him up in litigation for years. Bury him in legal fees. Make him an example to every other actor who thinks they can walk away. The lawsuit gets filed. Warner Bros. Versus Cagney. Studio system versus actor independence. And the case goes to court. Months of depositions, motions, counter-motions. Warner Bros. Brings every legal weapon, every precedent, every prior ruling. They argue that Cagney's refusal to sign damaged the studio, cost them millions in projected revenue, cost them their investment in building his career. The studio system requires stability, requires actors to honor their commitments, requires consequences when they don't. Cagney's lawyers argue something different. Argue that no contract was breached because no contract existed. The 7-year term ended. Cagney had no obligation to sign a new one. Refusal is not breach. It's basic contract law. Agreement requires mutual consent. Cagney did not consent. The case drags. And while it drags, Cagney makes his first grand national picture. Great guy, small production, limited release. The film is modest. Not a gangster picture. Not a Warner Bros. Spectacle. Just a solid story with Cagney playing an honest deputy inspector fighting corruption. The kind of role Warner never let him play. The film releases in limited theaters. Makes a small profit. Not a blockbuster, but enough. Enough to prove Cagney can work outside the studio system. Enough to prove audiences will still pay to see him. Warner Bros. Watches. The second grand national picture goes into production. Something to sing about. A musical. Cagney dancing, singing. The vaudeville performer he was before gangster films. Before Warner Bros. Decided who he should be. The film releases. Critics notice. Cagney reveals talents Warner Bros. Never utilized. The tough guy can dance. Why has Hollywood been hiding this? The cracks start showing. Other actors watch Cagney, see him working, see him surviving outside the system, see him controlling his career. Some start asking questions. Why are we signing 7-year contracts? Why don't we have script approval? Why don't we get profit participation? The questions spread, whispered in dressing rooms, discussed at parties. Actors Guild meetings get tense. The studio system depends on actors believing they have no alternative. Cagney is proving there's an alternative. Then the lawsuit reaches conclusion. February 1938. The judge rules. Warner Bros. Loses. The ruling is narrow but decisive. No contract existed after the 7-year term expired. Cagney had no obligation to sign a new one. His refusal was legal. His employment with Grand National was legal. Warner Bros. Has no claim for damages. The studio system took its first major legal defeat. Not because the judge opposed studios. Not because he favored actors. But because contract law is clear. Agreement requires mutual consent. You cannot force someone to sign. Warner Bros. Appeals. The appeal loses. The blacklist cracks. Other studios see the ruling. See that legally, they can't enforce informal agreements to punish actors who walk. See that the cartel's power has limits. Some start quietly reaching out to Cagney, offering projects, testing whether Warner will retaliate. Warner does nothing, because Warner can't. The legal precedent is set. Actors can walk, can work independently, can return to major studios after refusing contracts. The system doesn't collapse, but it shifts, slightly, just enough. By 1939, Cagney returns to Warner Bros. Not because he was broken. Not because he failed, but because Warner offers new terms. Script approval, creative control, profit participation, limited contract, 3 years instead of 7. The power balance shifted. Cagney proved an actor could say no. Could walk away, could survive, and Warner realized that keeping Cagney's talent was worth more than controlling his career. They needed each other, but now the need was mutual, not one-sided. The films Cagney makes after returning are different. Angels with Dirty Faces, The Roaring Twenties, each one gives him more dimension, more complexity, more than just the sneering gangster. By 1942, he makes Yankee Doodle Dandy, the musical biography of George M. Cohan. Full of dancing, singing, energy, joy. The performance Warner Bros. Said would never work. Said audiences didn't want. Said would ruin his gangster image. Cagney wins the Academy Award. Best Actor, for playing exactly what he wanted to play. For being exactly who he was. But the real legacy isn't the Oscar. It's what happened after September 14, 1936. After Cagney walked out of Jack Warner's office. After he refused to sign. Because that refusal rippled forward. Reached other actors, other negotiations, other contracts. The Screen Actors Guild gained power. Not overnight, gradually, over years, but the foundation shifted when Cagney proved actors weren't powerless. When he showed that the studio system only worked if actors believed they had no choice. When he stood in Warner's office with his hands in his pockets and said one word, no. By the 1950s, the 7-year contract system was dying. Studios still tried to control talent, still issued contracts, but actors had leverage now. Had alternatives, had legal precedent. The Supreme Court's Paramount decision in 1948 broke up studio monopolies on theaters. Television emerged as a new platform. Independent production companies formed. The monolithic control fractured, not because of one actor's refusal, But Cagney's refusal was the first crack. The first proof that the system could be challenged, could be beaten, could be changed. Decades later, film historians study that moment. September 1936. The contract negotiation, the walkout. They analyze it through contract law, labor history, studio economics. They write papers, teach classes, call it a turning point. The beginning of actor independence. The start of the modern entertainment industry where talent has power, where artists control their careers, where contracts are negotiations, not dictates. But maybe they're analyzing the wrong thing. Maybe it's not about the contract. Maybe it's about the 12 minutes in Jack Warner's office, when James Cagney stood there, hands in pockets, voice calm, heart racing beneath a suit that cost less than the ashtrays, and decided that owning himself was worth more than anything Warner Bros. Could offer. That dignity had a price, and he wouldn't pay it. That some lines don't get crossed, no matter the consequence. That saying no is power, even when no feels like suicide. Especially then. Warner told him he'd be serving tables in 6 months. Cagney died in 1986, 50 years after that meeting, having made over 60 films. Having won an Oscar, having helped transform an industry. Never served a table, never begged to return, never compromised the principle he walked out defending. And somewhere in Hollywood, in studios where contracts still get signed and careers still get built and power still shifts between talent and executives, James Cagney's refusal still echoes. Still teaches, still reminds everyone who enters a negotiation room that the most powerful thing you can say is one word. No, even when they tell you it means the end. Especially then, because what you refuse to sign defines you more than what you agree to. That's what September 14, 1936 taught. That's what 12 minutes in Burbank changed. Not Hollywood's contracts, Hollywood's courage.